So I have been asked to create a tutorial to show how to integrate OpenTest with Jenkins, and this is what we'll show today. I do have Jenkins running on my computer already. This is it. It's a fresh installation. I need to log in again. The other things I have on my computer already is a directory called OpenTest, which we created in the previous tutorials. This directory contains a server directory and an actor-web directory. The server directory is the working directory for the OpenTest server containing the configuration file for the server, and the actor-web directory is the working directory for the OpenTest actor containing the configuration file for the actor. And I have the server and the actor running in this console windows from those working directories that I just showed. And this is the user interface of the OpenTest server running locally on port 3000 as we normally do. The other thing I have in here is this OpenTest-Todoist directory, which is basically my test repo that I've been working on for in the other tutorials. This test repo, by the way, is cloned from this GitHub repository. If you want to clone it yourself, you're welcome to do so. So with that, we can get started. So we go to Jenkins and we create a new job. Let's call this job Todoist smoke tests. And let's make it a freestyle project. And I won't spend any time showing build triggers and source code management and other things, because this is not a Jenkins tutorial. I'll go directly to the build section. So we need to add a build step that will start a test session with OpenTest. We will click add build step and we will say execute Windows batch command. If you are on Linux or Mac, you would use execute shell, but in Windows we say execute Windows batch command. And in here we need to put a command that will start that session. In order to build that command, I will open another console window because I want to play around with it a little bit to make sure my command actually works. So the command I need to put in there is OpenTest session create, and then because I forgot the command line switches that I need to use, I'll actually do a -h, and let's see what this comes up with. I need to use the template option, then I need to use the wait option, and I need to use the out option. And I will explain what each one of them does. The template option allows me to use a test session template to start my session. Now, a test session template contains all of the settings, all of the parameters that OpenTest needs in order to understand what tests we want to run, what environment we want to run against, and all of the little things that you actually can define when you create a new test session from the UI. You can define the session label, you can define the environment, you can define what actor tags you're looking for in your test actors, and everything else. And of course, you can define what tests you want to include in your test session. So in order to find out more about test session templates, I would recommend that you actually go to the OpenTest website. So let's do that right now. And in the documentation, you go to test session templates. In here, I can see the syntax to create a test session template. And if you read the explanations, you'll also find out that templates need to live in a directory called templates. So let's copy this directory and let's create it. So I'll go to my test session, to my test repository. I'll right click, say open with VS Code. Let's close this. And in the root of my test repo, I will create a new directory called templates. And in this directory, I need to create a new file that will represent my test session template. Let's call it smoketests.yaml. And the syntax I need to use, I'll actually copy from the project's site. So the description will be smoke tests. The session label will be the same. I don't need to include actor tags. So basically, I'm happy to use whatever actors are available. I'm not looking for a particular actor tag. I don't care about environments, I don't care about maximum iterations, and I don't care about anything else. I only care that I add that one test I currently have in my repo. So the test is defined in the root of my tests directory. So let's just copy the path and put it in here. I don't need to put the directory because I included it here already in the path property. And this is it. If I had a second test, I would have to do this and include the name of the second test I want to add. And if my second test was in a subfolder, I would have to specify the path in here, like subfolder. All right, so let me delete this now. I'll save. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that my test session template is correctly defined. So I'll go to the user interface and we'll try to start the session this way from the create session from template option. I'll say create session. Nothing happens. Oh, that's because I included the extension in the test name in here. So that's not necessary to do. I will save this template and try again. Create session from template, smoke tests, create session. Yeah. And this time my test session started. I should see the browser. Yeah, so the browser started and everything looks correct. Good, so now I know I have a test session template file that is correctly defined. So my test session passed, everything looks good. So the next thing is I want to come up with a command line that will kick off this test session just the same as I do from the user interface. And this command is OpenTest session create. I have to say the template that I want to use, and my template is called smoke tests. And because it contains a space, I will have to put it in double quotes. And this is already enough to kick off that test session, but we'll have to add a couple more things. But let's try this out first. So see, a new test session started in here, and everything looks good. However, as you can see, my command already finished, right? So I have the command prompt in here, which means my command finished executing. This is not good in Jenkins, because what you want to do is you want to wait, you want Jenkins to wait until OpenTest finishes that test session so you can see whether the test session succeeded or not, and based on that you want to fail the Jenkins job or let it continue. So what we have to do in order to tell OpenTest to wait, basically in order to tell this command line to wait until the session is complete, you have to use the wait option. So we'll do a --wait, and this will be enough for this purpose. And then there's one more thing we need to do, which is to instruct OpenTest to output the results of the test session to disk, to an XML file. And you do that using the --out option. So I'll say --out, and then I'll have to specify the name of the file that I'm outputting to. And OpenTest outputs the test results using the JUnit XML format. This is a standard format that was popularized by JUnit and is compatible with many CI tools out there, including Jenkins. So the name of that file, I will give it as JUnit.xml, since this is the JUnit format. And let's try and see what happens now. So first of all, the command, as you see, the command is not exiting now. So the command waits for the test session to complete, either through a failure or through success, doesn't matter. And only then it will end. See, it just ended. And because I used the --out option, now I should find this JUnit XML file in here in the current directory that I'm at. So if I do a dir, see, I have this JUnit XML file in here. And let's actually, let's see what this file contains. I'll copy this path. Let's open the file JUnit XML. This file is currently not very easy to read, so let's we'll format it manually for now, just so you understand what's going on in here. So I have a test suite node that contains one single child node called test case. And if I had multiple tests, you would have multiple entries like this. So that's how this file looks like. For the time being, it's enough for you to know that Jenkins knows how to read this file to display the test results in case of a failure. So I guess we have our command line, and this is it. So let's copy it, and let's go and put it in Jenkins. All right, let's save, and let's try to build this project and see what happens. So my build is scheduled, and I have an error. Now, let's click on this and see what the error is about. Yeah, so this is a very common error that you'll find with Jenkins. OpenTest is not recognized as an internal or external command. Now, I do know that OpenTest is a valid command because I have been using it in here, right? If I say OpenTest-v and I get something, and I get the OpenTest version outputted to the console, then I know that OpenTest is correctly installed. So why does Jenkins not see my OpenTest installation? That is because Jenkins is not running under the same user account that I'm running. So I'm running under the my own user account. Jenkins, as actually you can see it in here, is running as a system user. So I have to make sure that this OpenTest command is visible under the system user. Now, there's many ways to do this. I'll show you one way, and I guess you can come up with other ways if you want to. So let's go to this PC properties, and I'll go to the Advanced System Settings and Environment Variables. Now, these variables in here are the variables for my own user account, and the ones on the bottom are the system variables that are being defined basically for any user that is running on this computer. Now, if I look at path, I will see that one of the entries in here is this one that is added by the Node.js installer when you install Node.js. And this actually points to let me show you this directory. It points to this directory in here, and as you can see, the OpenTest command is defined in here, which means that I have to include this directory in the system path so that anybody can see it, no matter what user account it is. So what I'll do in order to make that happen is I will change this path environment variable in here, which is the one that is used globally by all accounts on this computer. I'll say edit, and I'll just add a new entry in here that points to that npm directory. So now OpenTest and pretty much anybody running on this computer will be able to see it. The other thing I have to do is I will need to restart Jenkins, because I did the modification now, but you'll see that if I try to build, I will still get the same error. See, the exact same error. And that's because Jenkins was started before I changed that path environment variable. So in order for Jenkins to be able to benefit from that change that I just made, I need to restart it so that Jenkins will read those environment variables again. And now, after the restart, I should be able to see OpenTest running correctly. So I think we have to wait a little bit. All right, Jenkins started. I need to sign in again. And now let's go to the Todoist smoke tests job and say build. Build was scheduled. I can see it running here. Let's see what's going on. See, the test is running in the background. And my job finished successfully. So if I go to the log, I should see whatever I was seeing in the console window earlier. Good. So everything's nice and smooth. The other thing I want to show you is what happens when a test does fail. So let's duplicate this test. Well, actually, let's modify this test in place. So the very first thing we will do in here is we will add a script action that fails this test. So we'll call the $fail function, and for the error message we will say test was failed on purpose. All right, so let's save this test, and now let's build, let's run that same job again. The job is running. And now it has failed. So if I go to the log, then first of all I can see what tests failed. This is the output of the OpenTest session create command. Now what I want to do is I want to display information about why this test failed right here in Jenkins, so people don't have to go to the OpenTest UI to read that information. So what you would normally do if you're a tester is you would go into the OpenTest UI, click on this test session, then go to the log tab, and then read the error in here, and then you'd be able to see that the test was failed on purpose, and now you know why the test failed. But the people that have access to this Jenkins information are not necessarily the same people that are familiar with OpenTest and know how to read that information in OpenTest. So we want to display it for them in here in Jenkins. So the way to do that is to go to this Jenkins job, and configure the Jenkins job. And then we'll add a post build action of type publish JUnit test result report. And in here, we'll have to specify the JUnit XML file that we want Jenkins to read and interpret. And that file is, of course, none other than our JUnit.xml file that we are creating as part of that test session run. So I save this, and let's build again. Now my test session started. The test session failed again, and if I click on it, I can see the same information. However, I can also see this test result link in here, and if I click on that, now I have a very nice view of what are my failed tests. And if I click on one of them, I have access to that same information that the tester would have access to. And I can look in here and I can see the test was failed on purpose. So now I understand why the test failed. And this is how you integrate OpenTest with Jenkins. Just to recap, what you want to do is, first of all, you create a test session template that defines all of the tests that you want to run, basically your test suite that you want to kick off with Jenkins. Once you have the test session template, then you create the proper command line that you want to run from Jenkins. And this is the command line that we used. Then you create a Jenkins job and you use that command line in the build section. You add an execute Windows batch command for if you're running on Windows, or you add an execute shell command if you're running on Linux, but basically the command is going to be the same. Then you add a post build action of type publish JUnit test result report, just so that you can display the errors nicely in Jenkins. Of course, you can use the exact same approach to integrate with any other CI tool that you might be using, like TeamCity or Bamboo or whatever you are using. The important thing to remember is that you have this command line that you can run in order to kick off a test session and to output a JUnit XML file, which pretty much everybody knows how to interpret. I hope this was useful for you, and I will see you next time.